Hello, and welcome to the webinar, Careers in Architecture. We'll be discussing the wide variety of career options open to you with an architectural education. Our speakers today will be talking about both conventional as well as non-conventional professions related to architecture, speaking from their own experiences. I am Eric Lum, the online director for the Academy of Art University School of Architecture, and I'll be introducing our speakers who will be talking about different professional opportunities and their own individual experiences. The most recent survey from the American Institute of Architects indicates that there are over 100,000 licensed architects in the United States. There are also many others working in the profession that are in the process of gaining licensure. Within the profession, there are many different career paths possible. As a designer gains experience within an architectural office, he or she will gain expertise and start to develop skills that place them within a career track. This may be as a project architect responsible for the overall design aspects of a building project. It may be as an architect who specializes in the technical construction aspects of the design. It may be in the role of a project manager who is responsible for the scheduling of the project from beginning to completion. Depending upon the size and complexity of a building design, there are also architects who specialize in detailed aspects such as interiors, specifications, sustainable design, building envelope, and so on. Architectural offices often specialize in different building types, and so the type of office you may be interested in will have a significant impact upon your career. Firm specialties may include education, retail, multifamily residential, hospitals, among other sectors. The size of the firm will also have a bearing upon the kinds of projects that a firm may have. Typically, smaller firms, for instance, will do residential and small commercial work, while larger offices can handle bigger projects such as stadiums and office towers. Architecture school graduates, however, are not solely limited to work within an architectural firm. They may often find a career in related fields such as construction management, urban planning, or consulting in design-related fields. Work in emerging disciplines related to sustainability, building technology, or healthcare may be also possible. An architectural education will introduce you to a variety of skills in different problem-solving scenarios, and these skills will prove applicable to many different disciplines. Our first speaker, Mark Cruz, will talk about the career path of students who are recent graduates, either from a bachelor's program or at the graduate level.
Upon completion of an accredited degree program, it is important to formally establish yourself as an emerging professional in the field and to demonstrate your passion and commitment by focusing on licensure and gaining experience credentials. Most students sign up with the National Council of Architectural Registration Board's Intern Development Program, known by most as IDP. This can be done as early as graduating from high school, and many start gaining credit towards licensure while in school. NCARB provides you the most direct information for choosing your path to licensure and is actively working to make the process faster for future generations. In the beginning, oftentimes software design skills make one desirable for entry-level jobs, which you may find from networking with professionals you meet at school. Upon acceptance of your first job as an entry-level professional, it is important to know that you deserve to be paid fairly for your work as a contributing member to the profitability of a firm. You will use NCARB's IDP divisions to structure your path to licensure by prioritizing your experience in all the relevant areas of design production and firm management. Categories such as schematic design and construction documentation add a balanced imperative and purpose to your work and will help you gain leverage and respect with your employer by facilitating broader training in the firm. This will aid in introducing many project management and firm management aspects and the IDP program is there to help sponsor you and provide guidance in the working world and help you log the various credits you need to establish licensure. Additionally, you must choose a mentor that will help you navigate the IDP process. A mentor does not have to be your supervisor, just someone you trust and can provide well-tempered advice on your professional development. Lastly, the architectural registration exam will be the third and final counterpart to your education and work experience. The ARE exam, summarized by the categorical divisions of architectural tests, will require study and practice outside the normal work week. You'll find the test manageable, as NCARB is actively working to provide an improved preparation materials. Completing the ARE will complete your training and establish your legal authority in the field. So in conclusion, the most efficient and shortest path to becoming an architect will involve, number one, establishing IDP credit as early as possible and document your experience every 8 months. Number two, communicating your needs to your supervisor to fulfill multiple categories of experience. And number three, taking exams as early as the completion of 5 years of college and as fast as possible. ARE completion is a career-defining event and often accompanies an increase in salary.
Thank you, Mark. Architects who work on their own as a sole practitioner make up about a quarter of the offices in the United States, and 3/4 have less than 50 employees. Our next speaker, David Gill, will talk about the roles of architects in smaller firms.
I'm going to speak today about working in a small office, about generalization, responsibility, comprehensiveness. I'm David Gill. I'm a licensed architect with 20+ years experience. I held a Bachelor of Architecture from California College of Arts and Crafts, and most of my professional experience has been working for small, design-focused architecture offices, beginning with a student internship with Mark Horton Architecture, then a young designer with Kuth Ranieri Architects, Baum Thornley Architects, then back to Mark Horton's office as a project architect, and I'm currently principal at DNGA. I'm also an instructor and advisor at the Graduate School of Architecture for the Academy of Art University, where I teach the Comprehensive Building Design Studio, Materials, Methods of Construction, Thesis Prep, and Thesis Studio. The offices I've worked for range in size from 1 person to 15 people, and they do a variety of work ranging from furnishings and fixtures to single-family dwellings to housing to mid-sized commercial and institutional projects. Each new project is typically very different from previous projects. This demands that the firm be nimble, adaptable, and have an ability to learn quickly. Instead of specializing, these firms generalize. Structuring the firm's goal around good design allows the process to adapt quickly to new project challenges. Where some offices specialize in a particular project type, for instance, housing, schools, and so forth, the small design office draws upon a variety of projects and experiences to inform the next project. Specialization leads to solid and predictable solutions. Generalization leads to unique and innovative solutions. One person is a large percentage of the small firm, so each employee has many responsibilities. This means that a young designer is exposed to a wide range of tasks throughout a project and is probably working on several different projects, each in a different phase of development. One could be drafting details on one project, building and rendering models for another, chasing down material samples for a third, as well as updating the firm's website and even fixing the office printer. It is this variety of experiences that makes one well-suited to solving a new design problem. And this ability to adapt and learn quickly is essential when working in a team and a small office. Instead of a fixed set of responsibilities for each team member, often there's an all-hands-on-deck attitude, and each team member must adapt to the particular task at hand. And that requires a willingness to ask questions, collaborate, and improvise. Instead of being a small cog in a very large machine, being an employee, or the principal for that matter, in a small firm demands that one exercise a broad sense of responsibility to the project and to the office. This holistic or comprehensive approach begins in school with project-based learning and continues directly into your career as projects and teams grow more diverse. Approaching each project as a new and unique problem invites novel solutions and builds a broad base for future projects. Working in a small design office provides a special opportunity to experience and exercise variety and diversity in design. Working in small firms has been an invaluable experience for me. It's helped me develop as an architect and educator, one who places emphasis on general design to solve specific problems. Drawing upon a broad range of experiences allows me to approach each new project as a fresh challenge with much investigation and critical inquiry.
Thanks, David. Our next speaker, Paul Adamson, will talk about working in larger offices in institutional settings.
How long your career lasts and how remunerative it is depends upon rising up the ranks. Ultimately, the position with the best benefits is principal, with ownership shares or full partnership. The steps on the path to principal are quite standard in concept: junior designer to project architect, project manager, studio director, and on up to principal. The earlier steps correspond with years of experience. Job postings typically identify levels of training: 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10 years, and more than 10. The 10-year mark rhymes with tenure and represents a level of maturity that enables transitions to specialties: design leader, technical expert, and business or personnel manager. The larger the firm, the more access to these career ladders. Mid-sized versus larger firms. Let's talk about that. Mid-sized architecture firms are defined as 20 to 50 people, including support staff. Some offices are designed to expand. Others plan to top out at the 40 to 50 person level. The reason for halting growth is usually the owner's desire to remain involved with the design and execution of the projects and to provide personal service to their clients. Firms that grow beyond the 50-person level must develop an office structure divided horizontally between design, production, and management specialties, and vertically with perhaps 5 or 6 levels within production and design and 2 or 3 levels within management. As the firms grow, the structure expands further horizontally to include studios devoted to various market sectors: residential, higher education, commercial office, and so on. Looking at these comparative structures, one can imagine a career path in either case. The mid-sized firm, designed to top out, offers only a few openings at each level, but due to the limited number of levels, each position implies a range of responsibilities. This means employees need to remain flexible, organized, and prepared for frequent challenges. An employee may be involved in several different projects over a relatively short tenure. Should a younger employee thrive on the intensity and variety of these experiences, they'll soon be prepared for advancement to project architect and management roles. However, when the firm tops out, these roles can be obtained only through attrition of those already in these roles. Firms of more than 100 staff develop relatively quickly and often extend to multiple locations. As these firms grow in scale, the principals can no longer be involved in detailed aspects of projects, so must institute a more rigorous hierarchy. Each office, if there are multiple locations, will need leadership as well as the requisite staff levels. As a rule of thumb, a principal can effectively oversee 10 to 20 staff, meaning that an office of 120 will need 10 or more principals, and a 500-person practice will need perhaps 35 or more. This expansion of significant titled positions means there are more paths available to the entry-level or mid-level employee joining these firms. In conclusion, one's career path is ideally guided by understanding oneself, setting goals, and planning a route suitable to one's strengths and ambitions. Mapping a long-term successful career will depend upon understanding the types of opportunities and limitations of each context. Architects seeking work with mid-sized firms will need to be aware that opportunities to advance will narrow as they mature, and they may need to change firms to find their next step on the career ladder. Similarly, the large-scale office employee may need to transfer between branches to find routes to advance.
Thank you, Paul. Our last speaker, Samina Sitabkin, has worked in a wide range of disciplines within the architectural profession, as well as related fields, and we'll now hear from her.
Hello, everyone. As Eric pointed out earlier, an architecture education provides you with something very unique: the ability to think in a nonlinear fashion and a dexterity with complex problem solving. Coupled with technical and design skills, our study can touch on social and environmental trends as well as dip into the practice of building, producing, fabricating, and inventing. Alongside traditional architectural practice, there are a range of disciplines that can offer compelling alternate paths where you can harness these abilities. I'll go through some of these now. First is what I'll call social practice. This is the practice of making environments at the scale of the region and the city that are socially responsible. Examples of this are urban and city planning, low-income housing development, and carrying out research, advocacy, and progressive policies through grant funding and nonprofit work. I can give you two examples from my own practice. I attended and co-taught a design workshop at the Santa Rita Jail, where inmates were asked to design community and open spaces for the jail. This was done in partnership with a local nonprofit that focuses on a philosophy called restorative justice and looks at how to create humane environments in prison. I also worked for the City of Los Angeles Housing and Planning Departments in a program that reached deep into underserved neighborhoods and through advocacy and community outreach, identified buildings to be redeveloped into new affordable housing using city funds. Next is art and design. Some examples are graphic design, 3D animation, site interventions, exhibits, and set design. Recently completed a project for the City of San Francisco called Peep Show, in which we designed an interactive space on one of the busiest streets in the city. The process involved submitting ideas and accessing grants through partnerships with art groups in the city. San Francisco, for example, has a public arts ordinance which provides opportunities of this type of work. I've also designed public exhibits as a consultant for the Exploratorium, a local science and art museum. I'll call the next category building and making. Architects design, but they don't often physically construct. These alternate paths can allow you to make and can include fabrication, welding, woodworking, CNC milling, etc., and construction. Working in or starting a fabrication shop can expose you to new technologies as well as allow you to experience materiality and understand the detailed process of making. Many architects end up working in the construction industry, offering the chance to understand and oversee the detailed construction of a building while coordinating schedule, budgets, and other aspects of the construction business. Often the pay can be lucrative. Last is the flourishing field of green or sustainable disciplines. Careers in this area can involve working toward implementing renewable energy sources such as solar and offshore wind power, or assisting building owners in creating net zero buildings or utilizing gray water systems or green roofs. This is a growing and entrepreneurial field where invention, progressive thinking, and expertise in emerging technologies is valued. In conclusion, there are many, many more areas that I haven't explored in this short talk. If you are interested in finding out more, talk to artists, fabricators, contractors, developers, consultants, landscapers, interior designers, graphic designers, and anyone you think is doing something interesting. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Samia. We hope you have enjoyed our brief discussion and overview of the many different options you have with an architectural education. And we'll now use the remainder of this session to answer any questions that you may have posted.
Well, welcome to the Q&A portion of our webinar, Careers in Architecture. This is Eric Lum from the Academy of Art University, and we're joined here today by Mark Cruz, Paul Adamson, and Samina Satabkin to answer your questions in the time we have remaining here. So the first question we have posted by Nia Jones is, what is the cost to practice architecture? That's kind of a general question, and I'll assume and help clarify for us if I got this wrong. I think what you mean is by opening your own practice. Maybe that's a good question for Paul Adamson to address. Paul?
I'll see what I can do. I think that it's possible to start a practice literally in your apartment because there are a majority of firms in the country are very small, and as David pointed out, many of them are a sole practitionership. So it's a matter of having the available equipment to be able to go online and develop drawings through the software components that you'll need to be operating a contemporary practice. But as a small practitioner, your jobs are liable to be quite small. So I think a startup cost, I'm not going to say an actual dollar number, but it's a pretty low-risk proposition. If you're successful and grow from that, then the expense rapidly increases as you may need office space and employees or consultants. And maybe David can weigh in on what happens at that point.
Maybe that's we have another follow-up question from Cecilia Coman. What are the steps to take in starting your own or owning your own firm? I know, Mark, you've had some personal experience in doing that, so maybe you can answer that.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I would probably follow up with some of Paul's comments about, starting the practice of architecture in our modern era includes being versatile. There's a broad range of topics that appeal to different aptitudes, and just pure design can lead you down different avenues of exploration. Everything from a small firm that could be you could start your firm to focus basically on animation, rendering, visualization, and the more virtual aspects of design. Or you might be more of a maker type and you want to get involved with building and working with your hands. And so there's a whole explosion of digital fabrication potentials happening, everything from CNC, robots, and 3D printing. You could basically hybridize your practice to use some of these service industries to help sort of give you leverage in the design world. Not to mention building information modeling is revolutionized the way buildings are put together. And so you can operate in different capacities as a firm owner to collaborate with other larger, more established firms. Or as you can also just launch out on your own, use these technologies to integrate your own practice and to provide a wider range of services to your clients.
I think, so, Cecilia, depending on where you live, in which city and which state, there's slightly different steps that you would take to start your own practice or your own office. It's really like starting any small business, actually. You go to probably City Hall and you set up the requisite numbers of papers and the kind of office you want, whether it's a sole ownership or a small business or LLC or S corporation. There are all kinds of sort of tax and business implications tied into all of those items. And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Eric, I'd add to your comment that, in many states, young architects can actually design single-family residences to get some experience without their licensure in place. But licensure is a critical point in owning your own practice because the legal and risk involved in running your own firm is very high. And so once you've got your license, then the financial structure will become, it'll actually be a lot clearer for you once you understand all that's involved. And that's what you learn through taking the actual tests themselves.
I think if I can just add, sorry, quickly, that another important part of starting your own firm is networking in the city or place that you live in, finding out, looking for potential clients, seeing what other small firms are doing, potentially working in a small firm that does the type of work you do so you can kind of learn the ropes.
All right. Generally, architects out of school do not start their own practice right away. They usually start off by working in another firm for several years. And I think typically what happens is that they have some familiarity with either a project type, or they've gotten to learn and become familiar with certain clients. And for whatever reason, the existing office may not have the bandwidth to handle a project, and so they'll pass it off to you. And so that's kind of a very sort of traditional way of splitting off from a current office and setting up your own. But it's different depending on different circumstances. We have another question from Christopher Matesky, and he's asking, what is the job outlook for an architect versus an architectural engineer in 5 to 6 years? In the last 5 years, actually just before around 2010, as you probably know, there was a pretty significant recession, and it hit, I think, architects hardest. And so that was really sort of the low point for a lot of people in the profession. But since that point, things have picked up, and if there was an upside to that recession, it actually meant that there was a huge backlog of work out there that was waiting to be done. And so in the last couple of years, there's actually been a huge amount of work for both architects as well as for engineers. I know in the city of San Francisco, where the academy is based, both structural and mechanical engineers are incredibly busy. They have probably more work than they can handle at the moment. And so for both engineers and architects, we're in a pretty busy state. Maybe, Paul, you can elaborate on that?
This is on the topic of engineering or being, I'm not quite sure.
Well, I think architects and engineers in general, how they've been doing. And so I'd say it's a pretty positive outlook in the next 5 to 6 years.
Certainly has been in the Bay Area. There's enormous growth here, so it's a great place for anybody working in everything from construction to urban planning. The kind of fabric of the Bay Area is transforming largely suburban to a kind of semi-urban condition. So not only are the building projects getting denser, they're getting more complicated. And so whereas in the past, much of the residential work done in this area was single family, these days it's multifamily and the projects are mixed use. So that means that whereas before single-family homes were not necessarily designed by architects, they were designed by in-house facilities of major builder developers. Now, with the scale of projects being developed, they're with the multifamily in particular and the mixed use and the large scale of the projects that are being done now, it's mandatory that they be designed by architects. So the fact is, along with the growth of the population there is, and the concentration of the population in more urbanized conditions, there's a greater need for architects than ever before. So I think you're right, Eric, that it's a good time, and not just for the next 5 or 6 years. There'll be some downturns in the economy, of course, but generally speaking, going forward, almost every city in the United States is going to experience the same kind of urbanization, we could call it, and so the need for architects is going to continue to expand.
Great. We just have a few minutes left. I'll try to squeeze in a couple of last ones. Biengo Landico, sorry if I got your name wrong, is asking, is there a usual official position in most architectural firms and companies for someone into documenting archival or precedence research? That's kind of a complicated question. Maybe I can pass that one off to you, Samina, about documentation, sure, archival, or precedent research.
Yeah, precedence research is probably most likely done by whoever is working on a design project, in my experience. So as you are in the early stages of design, in schematic design or entitlement, you will probably do some precedent research to back up your design. As far as documentation, I would think when projects go into construction, we have construction administration assistants who aid in a lot of the paperwork and documentation that happens toward the end of the construction documents phase and into construction and into as-built drawings. As far as archival, there's usually an office manager or somebody who takes control of the office library, materials library, and other documents that kind of manages that. I hope that answers your question.
Right. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so unfortunately we have several other questions. So if you want to send them directly to me or David Gill, you can see my email attached to elam@academyart.edu. I'll just squeeze in one last thing from Yue Lev. She's asking, or he is asking, do you enjoy your career as an architect? Yes. And if you don't want to be an architect, then do something else, but you should definitely enjoy it. And I think I can answer for everybody. We all enjoy architecture. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you somewhere in the career of architecture. All right, take care.